will be having any circling back at the White House. It was Jen Psaki's last day as White House press secretary. She held her final briefing, so we're going to send her off with a clip of some of her greatest hits. Take a look.
Broadly known and widely known, Peter, that there was a broad range of Russian disinformation back in 2020. We're still at work on and improving a process and improving a system that was very broken when we took office. Some might say that the other party was for defunding the police. I'll let others say that.
Yeah. Joining us now with reaction is tonight's company, national spokesman and director of Black Media Affairs at the Republican National Committee, Paris Denard, along with Turning Point contributor and featured author at BizPac Review, Erin Elmore. Good to see you both. You know, Erin, I want to start with you. When Jen was giving her final briefing, she thanked the press for their role in democracy and said, "I want to thank you for holding us accountable." And I'm going through as we listen to like those clips, and I'm saying she could say anything she wanted about COVID, about the Republican Party, about President Trump, anything, inflation. Remember, it was transitory, and never held accountable. There's no follow-up.
Why would you expect her to start telling the truth today, right? She has lied for her whole entire tenure, and I don't think she's going to stop now. And there's a famous song, "If your lips are moving means you lie, 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 lie." I think they're talking about her. But what I look forward to the most isn't her last day. I'm looking forward the most to her first day at MSNBC when her ratings are lower than a submarine. Her ratings are going to be so low, divers would say she's going to get the bends.
Wow. Paris Denard, from an RNC standpoint, when you guys sort of do your fact checking and put out, here's what the White House said today in the briefing, do you think that there's been, well, how much pickup is there in the media when you try to hold them accountable for what they're saying from that White House press briefing room?
Well, you know, it's very difficult, Sean, and you know this particularly well, trying to hold the Biden-Harris administration accountable when you have a complicit media who is not doing their job.
Oh, no, a lot of unanswered questions, Paris. Maybe, you know, we talk about her going to MSNBC. Maybe when she's there, she's going to have a lot of screen time. She can answer some of those questions. But what surprises me is that, you know, of all this accountability from the press, they never tried to hold her accountable for this conflict of interest. We've known for weeks now, maybe months, that she's going to MSNBC, yet she's continued to stand there at the podium, and which also brings us to the next conflict of interest of the incoming press secretary and her relationship with the CNN correspondent. Erin, your thoughts on that?
It's really damaging and dangerous, but this administration has no accountability. What's even more alarming about Jean-Pierre, was that Paul Pierre, right? Anyway, what's the most alarming thing is that she's also spoken out in very anti-Israel stances. And that should be alarming to every American, no matter what your religious persuasion. She is supposed to be an unbiased third party who is actually, by the way, doesn't the press secretary of the United States work for the American people? All people of all persuasions? She spoke out in Newsweek against the AIPIC group, which is a pro-Israel group, and she made defamatory statements about them. And she spoke and said, yes, the Democrat Party should boycott this pro-Israel group. So this is alarming. She has a relationship with the woman at CNN. Also very, very alarming. There should be that sort of separation. But as we see, no standards on the left, no accountability on the left at all. And if this was on the right, people would be banging their fists and screaming about how inappropriate it was. But of course, she gets a pass because she's a liberal.
Well, I was just going to say, as John can attest to that, I can imagine if this was the Trump administration, boy, we wouldn't be hearing the end of this for weeks on end. Paris, what say you?
You wouldn't, and you know, it's just interesting the difference in how they treat these liberal Democrat administrations versus how they treated the press secretaries that worked for President Trump.
A bit of a contrast in how the press dealt with the Trump administration and how they dealt with Jen. Anyway, Paris, Erin, stay right where you are and get those letters ready for the company quiz. Erin is back to defend her title. Can she keep it? Jen Pellegrino is going to play to find out if she can take it from her. We'll be right back. All right, it may be Friday the 13th, but that won't stop our company from pressing their luck on the company quiz. Back to play, defending champion Erin Elmore, who's being challenged by another recent winner, Paris Denard. And in for Lindsay this week, Jen Pellegrino looking to shake things up. All right, let's kick this thing off. Question one, the eyes of the nation on the high stakes of Pennsylvania next week for that big primary race. This week, we've been talking to the Republican candidates in the race, and earlier this week, we spoke to Dr. Oz. The race is one of the most expensive contests in this year's election cycle so far. In the last cycle, 2020, though, we saw the most expensive Senate race in history. Which state had the most expensive race ever? A, Arizona, B, North Carolina, C, South Carolina, D, Georgia. Jen Pellegrino reaching for a letter early. I feel like, and she was right. You all are right. That's right. It was D, Georgia, that race between now former Senator David Perdue and current Senator Jon Ossoff. On Wednesday, question 2, we spoke to Florida Congressman Mike Waltz about the national security risk posed by a Chinese company's takeover of Forbes Global Media. Congressman Waltz said that the company has links to Chinese Communist Party, which is looking to denigrate free enterprise by taking over an icon of capitalism here in the United States. Speaking of the Forbes, though, the first Forbes 400 list of billionaires was first published in 1987, but the magazine has been tracking the richest Americans since 1918. Well, back in 1918, who was the richest American, according to Forbes? A, Andrew Carnegie, B, Henry Ford, C, Charles Schwab, or D, John D. Rockefeller? Yeah, a little slower. Oh, Jen Pellegrino holding back. Yeah, and choosing the wrong letter. But Erin Elmore knows her rich people. That's right. It was John D. Rockefeller. He was. You know that, or you just study rich people, or you know the Rockefellers?
I had a hunch, and that was my first instinct, and they say always go with your first instinct. But like I said, I took the bar exam, so I'm good at multiple choice. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see how you do heading into question 3, up to 1-1. The Biden administration is under fire for the baby formula shortage that's left parents of infants across the country scrambling to find enough baby formula to feed their little ones. Retailers across the country are setting limits on the amount of formula that customers can buy because of the shortage. I actually posted the way for imports of formula from overseas. We get about 2% of it. That's why I learned this from these shortages. Which country, though, is credited with first developing baby formula? A, France, B, Belgium, C, Germany, or D, Switzerland? Man, you know what? Erin Elmore goes from rich people to baby formula origins really well.
Erin, you gotta get on Jeopardy. You're just
tell me, did you know this one? I mean, it is Germany. It was from the 1860s. Why?
Oh, well, I bought this special baby formula from Germany, and then I started doing research on it. It was like this amazing stuff, and that's how I went down the rabbit hole of formula and realized that if it started there, it must be good.
Wow. I mean, I always think that I learn a lot in the quiz. This is now I feel like, this is why you're a returning champ. All right, question. Jerry Seinfeld tells George Costanza, quote, if every instinct that you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. In the same episode, Kramer appears on a talk show to promote his book about coffee tables. What show did Kramer appear on in that episode? A, The Today Show, B, The Tonight Show, C, Geraldo, or D, Live with Regis and Kathy Lee? Three Ds. All right, that's good. I'm assuming either everyone guessed right or everyone's a Seinfeld fan.
Seinfeld fan.
I just guessed that one.
Paris, are you a Seinfeld fan?
I guess. It seemed like the most probable.
I just didn't know if you were like watching Erin Elmore put that D up there. Like, all right, well, she's on a roll. I'll go with her. All right, question 5.
No, last name is Denard. Go with D.
You got some easy questions today, Sean. You got to make it a little harder.
All right, this is the true test. This is the true test, at least for me. We're going to throw you a little curveball here. Another Trump-backed candidate won a primary this week when West Virginia Congressman Alex Mooney won the Republican primary for West Virginia's 2nd congressional district on Tuesday. Mooney faced off against fellow Republican Congressman David McKinley after the seat lost a seat in the reapportionment process and they were redistricted together. John Denver's hit song, Take Me Home, Country Roads, was approved as West Virginia's official state song in 2014. Here's the question. What's the other state official song also written by and performed by John Denver? A, Alabama, B, Colorado, C, Kentucky, or D, Tennessee?
Oh, this is tough. I'm gonna go with my first instinct. I don't know.
Your first instinct. I am truly disappointed that we have no John Denver songs. Colorado, B, is the answer.
Never would've
In
guessed.
1973, the hit song was inspired. Come on.
Oh no! Rocky Mountain
Rocky Mountain High, guys. Come on.
Gosh.
Sing it, Sean. Sing it for us, Sean.
Erin Elmore, though, goes 4-2-2 and remains the 2-week champion, potentially going
Bravo, Erin.
for
Bravo.
Erin.
Wait, you had B?
Oh, Erin, did you have B?
Yes.
You have the. All right, you have the.
Oh, it looked like
you
a
got
G.
the fancy letters. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes.
they're all cursive-y. So
Isn't
Erin
that
Elmore goes
cursive-y?
5 for 5. I'm
Cursive is
sorry,
a lost art.
and retains her championship. Next week she will go 3 for 3 for the coveted mug. Paris Denard, really appreciate you joining and playing in. We'll add a little different
Better
artist.
luck next time
Yeah.
for us, Paris. We'll get this.
Jen, thanks for filling in. We'll be right
I'm on a
back,
roll.
though.
We'll get it.
You are on a roll. All right, coming up, remember when Democrats called for the defunding of police? Well, their leader, President Biden, is now calling to fund cops, but wants to use COVID funds to do it. We're going to discuss after the break.